Hello and welcome to another episode of Damn, Huh Did I Just Watch? With your host as always, Kyle McLemore. This week we'll be recapping and reviewing the latest addition to the Insidious franchise. That's right, it's Insidious, the Red Door. Now, if you haven't seen The Red Door and would still like to, make sure you pause now and return later, as there may be several spoilers up ahead. That's right, this is your official spoiler alert. Interestingly enough, although The Red Door sees the return of the entire original Insidious cast, it does not see the return of the original franchise director, James Wan. Instead, we get the directorial debut of Mr. Patrick Wilson. That's right, he's pulling double duty, not only starring, but also directing. And so going into The Red Door, there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of interesting components, there's a lot of stuff drawing you in, right? Not only are we being reunited after 10 years with our original family, but it's the original cast. Like, everybody's coming back, which is in itself pretty exciting. We also have the directorial debut of Mr. Patrick Wilson. There's a lot of stuff going into this movie that's like, all right, I am hyped, I am excited, I am ready for this to be a good movie. Unfortunately, even though they brought all this stuff back, even though they brought back all this stuff, they forgot one key component. They forgot to make it scary. Because this movie is legit boring AF, dude. It is so, I think that's part of their strategy, is to basically bore you out of your mind and then crank up that volume when they finally have like a blast scare. Not only is it boring, but it's also like weirdly confusing, and also like feels overall like lazy and not complete, and it feels like there's just a lot of like, huh? Starting with like, the movie opens up with like, okay, we're just gonna wipe your memory. Yeah, all that stuff from chapter 1 and 2 sure was crazy, Patrick Wilson, but I think we can all agree the best solution is to just forget about it. Which essentially ruins everybody's lives, right? They say it over and over. They're like, oh man, Patrick Wilson, after we hypnotized you, you got all foggy and disconnected, and so I divorced you and just took the kids because you're being weird and like disconnected. And all the kids are like, ugh, why do we have this weird feeling around Dad? Why does nobody like Dad anymore? And it's like, oh, because he tried to murder us and we wiped your memory. We're not going to explain that he was possessed by a demon, no. We're just going to leave you little nuggets of like him trying to kill you and then just erase everything else. Again, okay. Which makes it just like weird and I don't know, this vague feeling of like laziness or randomness when other characters like Carl shows up at his mom's funeral like, hey, and Patrick Wilson's like, whoa, do I remember you? And Carl's like, nah. And he's just like, oh, okay. See ya. And that's it. That's all we did at Carl for the whole rest of the movie. He just pops up to be like, hey, you still don't remember me, right? Good. See ya. Okay. Or how about later when Rose Byrne finally like admits to Patrick Wilson like, hey, we erased your memory. And he's just like, what? And she's like, yeah. And then you just became kind of, I didn't like you after that. So I divorced you. Like, what, dude? How about you just be honest with me? How about you explain how, like, the best solution was to just wipe my memory and then divorce me and make my relationship with my children terrible and make me, like, this, like, really sad single dad life where I only, again, he's like, I only visit my kids on the weekend, and all of this, his whole sad life and his messed up relationship with his kids can all be traced back to their terrible idea of just like wiping his memory and then keeping it a secret from him for the last 10 years, dude. The fuck? And thank goodness, dude, thank the gods for Sinclair Daniel, because without her, this would be the most brutal experience ever, dude. She's essentially the only character that is like interesting, the only character that has like a sense of life or like any kind of energy levels at all in this film. Thankfully, they decide to pair her up with Ty Simpkins, because if it was just Ty, dude, if it was just Ty Simpkins, this would be the most brutally uninteresting, most low-energy film ever. There is also the entire story and narrative of the film is very like convoluted and just like all over the place, and then many of these journeys that we go on end on such a note that it's just like, what was the point of all of that? The entire movie, Patrick Wilson is being haunted by his absent father. And he goes on this whole adventure to like find his dad, and like it leads him to a mental hospital, and like, what? He was seeing ghosts too? And at the end, it's like presented in a way where it's like, I was helping all along. And it's like, no, you weren't. You did nothing except be like blurry in the background the whole movie, Dad. You did nothing. And there's other like ghost or like spooky things in the film, but unfortunately, they're like the opposite of scary. They take away from the scary factor. The other ghosts in the films, like they're more comical than they are scary. They're more like hell, like they're just like asking for help. Like there's nothing really scary about a ghost who's like, hey, can you help me with my problem? Like my afterlife sucks. Can you help me? That's not scary. And then finally, when we do have like our introduction of like, oh, it's handprint guy, it's Redface dude from the OG, he's back, and he's playing his like, hey. But even when he's introduced, it's just like not that scary, and also more confusing because he's like choking out people in his ghost form. Like, okay, so Ghost can just like straight up murder, dude. Like he chokes this girl until she dies. And then later he's like possessing bodies. So it's like, what's the point of possessing the bodies when you clearly have the power to just ghost choke people? And then when he is like in human form, when like the demon has possessed the son or whatever, he is straight up using Jedi powers on a scale that I have never seen, dude. He is like making Darth Vader look like a little bitch, dude. He is like force pushing people in ways I have never seen before. So it's just like, what are the rules here, people? What is the point of possession if you can already kill people? And then you get crazy Jedi powers? What are the rules, dude? Then they even lazy or try to shoehorn the way that chapter 1 and 2 are directly linked. 1 and 2 is basically one long movie. The way that they go back into 2 and it's all intertwined and hey, remember when that door opened up in 1? Well, in 2, it was me opening the door. They try to do that in this one. They try to do a little, hey, remember in 2 when we were walking around with my son? But it's so, it doesn't connect. It doesn't even link. It doesn't matter. It's just, so clearly, we need that little spice of nostalgia. Throw it in there. Man. And then it's not even a satisfying ending. He doesn't get all his memories back. He still doesn't know who Elise is. And what's their solution? They don't close the door. They don't finish it. They just you just paint over it and we're done. What, dude? Overall, it just feels like a huge letdown to this huge buildup. It's such a big pedestal of oh yeah, dude, Insidious coming back, and we're bringing the OGs and Patrick Wilson and the whole original family. Oh, and everyone's favorite handprint face guy. It's all coming back, baby. But then it's just letdown after letdown. And then halfway through, you're is this even a horror movie? It's not that scary. And then it's just like the whole story is like just confusing and like it's just like this weird goose chase to nothing, dude. Like, so let's hit the red door with our overall rating. Overall, yeah, it is cool to see all the old familiar faces. Yeah, it's great to have the old gang come back, but unfortunately, it's not enough, right? It's not enough to make up for the lack of spookiness. It's not enough to make up for the weird storyline that just leads to nowhere. It's not enough to make up for the whole, like, Patrick Wilson's journey for his dad who's haunting him for no reason. Like, it's not worth any of this, dude. It's not worth coming back 10 years later for this. Overall, we're gonna hit the red door with a D. Coming in below average. It is unfortunate. It's unfortunate to have such a big build-up just to be let down so hard. Especially, I mean, I was really excited. As soon as I saw it directed by Patrick Wilson, I was like, oh, you go, Patrick Wilson, let's go. And even that was like a big, like, oh no, Patrick Wilson, what are we doing? If you felt differently about The Red Door, be sure to comment down below. And if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, as it's much appreciated. I am your host as always, Kyle McLemore, and we'll see you next time at the movies.